Hey everybody, I'm Ted, and I've been leading worship for about 15 years, and so I've worked with a lot of different kinds of musicians, jazz musicians, metal musicians, rock musicians, classical musicians, vocalists, drummers, guitarists, bassists, violinists, you name it. I've worked with a lot of different styles, a lot of different age ranges, and basically what I've learned is if you got a specific style that you're going for, chances are if somebody's going to be joining your team, they aren't going to mesh exactly with that style right away. So I've come up with a few different tips and ideas for you guys on how to actually address that, how to work with those musicians, help them feel valuable, like you're not just saying, hey, your style is wrong, but how to help them make the transition to be able to add to what you're trying to have happen with your band without making them feel bad in the process. A few years ago, a musician joined our team at our church, and he is a really good friend of mine now, but he was a metal musician. So like shredding guitar, extremely talented, like very, very good at what he did. Now the thing is, when you're playing a song by Chris Tomlin or you're playing something by Hillsong, shredding on the guitar is not necessarily what you want to go for. So we had a few different things we had to work on, right? Metal guitar typically has very different guitar tones than what you're looking for in a worship musician. Secondarily, they typically play lots of different style licks and riffs and like just tons more scales and sweeping arpeggios and all that kind of stuff, right? So, sometimes people get this idea like, oh, if they don't fit my team, like I don't want them on my team. They're just they're showboating. They're just trying to show off. And a lot of times it's actually not the case. They're not trying to show off. It's just that's all they know. They've been practicing for hours and hours and hours in their room, sitting down, just going meticulously over these scales, over these arpeggios, right? Or for different instruments, maybe they've just been practicing this one style because it's all they've known. It's all they've learned. So don't think they're just trying to show off. Some people are trying to show off, but most of the time, it's just what this musician knows. So you got to meet them where they are. You have to say, hey, you know what? I understand that this is what you've learned. This is what you enjoy. This is what has gotten you into music in the first place. So we're going to try to just take what works with that style and start to move you over into this realm of what we're looking for over here, this worship music. Now, there are lots of different styles of worship music. I'm not going to get into the technical details of how I specifically went about helping this metal guitarist to play the style that I needed him to, but we addressed guitar tone. I had him listen to a bunch of different music, and I said, really listen to these guitar tones. See what you can find in there. See how you understand those guitar tones. What do they sound like to you? He started talking to me about, oh yeah, I've heard this kind of guitar tone used before in the kind of music that I like to listen to, like in this kind of situation or whatever. So we really kind of meet on that level, right? He showed me a few things that he listened to, and I said, okay, cool. This is what I like about that music. This is what I like about that guitar tone. This is the kind of stuff that the guitarist was doing that I really, really would like to hear happen in our music. So just basically trying to meet them halfway. You don't want to say everything you've ever learned is now garbage and everything that I'm going to teach you is going to be your saving grace, because that's a little self-centered, right? It's a little prideful to say that. So secondarily, I would say, besides just meeting them halfway, you have to humble yourself and realize that just because you have a really, really great idea of what you're looking for, don't forget that these people have put a lot of time into what they do. They know their craft. They know how to play their instrument. They probably, in a lot of different ways, know more than you do. These different musicians I've worked with over the years, let's talk about drummers, for example. So I've got a drummer who plays in my church who is just phenomenal. He's like a studio quality drummer. Amazing. Now, he's, I think, like between 50 and 60 years old. So me being a 30-year-old guy, and then you've got an older generation drummer, a lot of times people will complain about that and say like, oh, he's just an old drummer. He's always doing old fills. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, da-da-da-da-da. All this stuff goes on and on and on and on. And at first it was a little bit of a challenge. We're trying to mesh together to figure out like, okay, you're playing these kinds of fills. We need to figure out how to change that. You're playing on the bell of the ride a lot more than I would like to have us play. Like you're playing the ride kind of light. I want to hear you crash it a little bit more. I want you to really make that thing resonate, And basically we worked meticulously through. All the while I'm bringing him honor because he's been playing music longer than I've been alive. Like I want to make sure that he understands that I don't take what he does lightly. I know that he is very talented, is very knowledgeable, knows more than I do about music, has more experience playing music than I have about playing music. So I got to be very careful and tread very lightly, still be honorable, but I am the person in charge, so I do need to figure out how to still direct his play style to mesh with what we're trying to do, right? So how did I do that? We sat down, we talked. In rehearsals, I would talk to him beforehand and say, I really want you to listen to specifically how these drums are played, not just what they're playing. They're going to be doing different kinds of fills than you're used to doing. I'd really like you to learn these new fills. The way that they build into a new section, they take a lot longer to build. I really want you to pay attention to exactly how they're doing that. Really just encouraging these musicians they're good at what they do for a reason. They know how to disassemble a song. They know how to disassemble an instrument part and listen to it and really, really dig down into it. So encourage them to do that. Encourage them to dig deep down into the song and listen, like, what are you hearing there? Are you hearing, because they probably can hear it better than you can, honestly, right? If they know their instrument that well, they've been playing for that long. What are you hearing here? They'll say like, oh yeah, he's playing the tom, but he's playing the floor tom, but he's playing it like really, really hard. But they just have it turned way down in the mix. Like they're going to be able to notice these kinds of things that maybe you just take for granted. I know that I did. And so I learned a lot about how our play style works for drums from this older drummer who is very experienced, knew what he was doing, and could wipe the floor with me any day. Could wipe the floor with a lot of the other drummers at our church, even though they are used to the style that we play. This guy obviously had way more experience and was way better at the drums. So humble yourself, basically. That's the second point, right? You want to make sure that you don't think that you're above these people ever, because we all have something to learn from each other, even if it is just learning the wrong way to do things, learning what not to do. But at the very least, we have something to learn from each other. So it's very important to honor all the musicians, even new musicians who are younger than you. So that brings me kind of my third example, right? How do you work with somebody who's learning, because that's a style in itself, right? Somebody who's learning how to play worship music, but maybe this is the first thing that they're learning. What I'd say is really drill down and focus on what you need them to know first. If they're learning lead guitar for a worship team, don't start them with sweep picking. Like, you don't want to jump them into metal styles. You don't want to jump into like jazz chord notations. Like, you're going to be teaching them stuff that they won't be able to apply right away. You want to teach them things that they're going to be able to apply super fast right away. You want to get new musicians playing as quickly as you possibly can and meshing as quickly as possibly as they can in with the band. So that way they have a community of friends. They have people that they're getting to know, understand, and trust. They might have genres of music that they listen to, and they're still trying to figure out, what kind of bassist am I going to be? What kind of vocalist am I going to be? So what I always do in those situations is I really like to just gush over the kinds of music that I want them to like. They look up to us as worship leaders, right? So if we're trying to help form somebody into a great worship vocalist, I will give them examples of, oh my gosh, listen to Brooke Fraser sing this song. She's incredible vocalist, right? Listen to Carrie Job on this song, just like the way that she hits those high notes with power, but it's not like so bright that it makes it like your ears bleed. Like, just like talk about the qualities that you want to see replicated, because what we celebrate, that's what people are going to replicate, right? So give them examples of what you want to see happen in your music. Talk up about those things, because that's going to make these musicians want to learn. It's going to give them drive to figure out how to operate like that. And secondarily, it's really going to give them like a level of excitement about like, oh my goodness, this is possible, and I know where I'm going. It's not just like I'm going to learn to sing today. It's like I'm going to learn to sing like this. Knowing a direction is so crucial to someone being able to actually start on a journey. So that's basically it. That's what I've got. That's the kind of experience that I've had in helping people who have different styles mesh in with what you're trying to actually craft and create as a worship leader with your worship team. What do you guys do? I want to hear from you guys in the comments below. Come on, put some comments down there, chat a little bit, talk to me about how do you work with musicians of different styles, different ages, different musical preferences, different instruments. Love to hear what you have to say. Thank you so much for hanging with me today. Peace.